All right, welcome back, everybody. In just a moment, we will be starting our masterclass with Kristen Denny-Chambers. And while she's preparing, just a little bit of background. We're really excited. The ICA Enthusiast Committee, about a year and a half ago, thought it would be really fun to add some repertoire from a really skilled contemporary composer that could be played by everyone who just loves clarinet. And Kristen was our first choice, just hands down, because her clarinet playground books are so excellent. People love them, and this piece will be premiered at the Clarinet Fest in Dublin, but we have a sneak preview with three players who help support the consortium. So, Kristen, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this. I was kind of blown away by the request, and um, I was really happy that an idea happened on paper and it worked. So, all really good stuff. I do want to thank the three people who dove in and decided to be guinea pigs today. It's no easy feat to play a brand new piece of music, not only for a masterclass, but for the composer. I can't even imagine. I've never done that, so I can't even imagine what that would feel like. So thank you for working on it, and I'm excited to get started so we can hear it, and we'll go through a few tips to help the players get more comfortable with it.
All right, so our first performer here is Catherine Carlton, and we do have a video initially to share, so I'll play that, and Kristen, just let me know if you want me to pause at any point.
All right, excellent job, Catherine. And it's so good to see you again. Well, we're going to go through some really simple notes that I took to just kind of help this to come to life a little bit better. Um, One thing that I think that you've already noticed in our emails back and forth to each other is we want to start that beginning a little bit softer so that that first crescendo can be really dramatic. So that's something that you can keep working on. But overall, I think if you can get more immediacy to your sound, that would be really helpful. So, like in the second movement or a slow movement of a piece, we want to have, I usually say like cottony edges, a nice cotton ball at the beginning and a cotton ball at the end. So it has a nice place to start and a nice soft place to land. Can even start with the air, when you're playing something slow and gentle. But this, we want boom sound right away for every little phrase, like just right on the button. So it may be hard to do that when you're playing soft, so you can start by playing loud first and then try to get that immediacy softer and softer and softer, and that'll help it have that sort of jumpiness to it and liveliness to it. And I don't know Do you have your clarinet out where you could try a couple of things? Ooh, yes. Okay. So
Yeah, we'll be testing the setup here. I'm using somebody else's office right now,
oh,
so
okay. Okay.
it's kind of a goofy day.
So if we just
But
look at something simple like the third measure, right? If it comes in with a sort of softness, it's like, right? But if we want
kind
more
of
punch to it, boom, just right at the edge.
so start bar 3.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Nice. And then when the main theme comes in at measure 9, and that's another place where we want like punch, of course, with the accents too, right? And one thing about the accents is over time, things my teachers have told me have finally sunk in. You know how that goes. So they're like, to make your accents come out, you have to play less on the non-accented notes. And it took a long time for that to click, but that really does click because I kept trying to force the accent notes when really you just play those kind of normal and then back off everywhere else, and it really works nicely. So if you just do like measure 9, it gets more pop when you let go of those back notes. You want to try that?
Okay, shall I give it a go?
Yeah, give that a try. Yeah. Yeah, it has so much more like spiciness to it now, right? And it kind of jumps off the page a little bit more. It's great. So this super short backstory, Meet and Greet, is the name of the movement. It's like we're meeting all of our clarinet friends at another conference. We haven't seen each other in so long, right? So this main theme comes in. It's like, there you are, and you give them a big hug, and it's just really exciting, right? So that's kind of the whole character of this movement, okay? Let's see, there's another little spot we can look at, which I think is off of the sample grid, but that's okay. Measure 30. This is tricky. This is where there's a crescendo beginning on high notes. And it's so tempting to want to crescendo up to that high C. I even wrote in my own music, wait, right? I'm like, wait, let that crescendo go down to the low notes, which is opposite of what we generally want to do. We want a crescendo to a high passage, right? So try to keep that covered and wait to save your biggest sound for the downbeat of 31 on an open G, which is totally opposite of what the clarinet wants to do. So that's something that you can experiment with, holding back your volume and get ready to push towards the lower notes there. But you played the smooth section so beautifully, like that was really, really nice. Let's look at 41, I think it was. Yeah. So this is the spot that leads to that gently section. For those that are listening, it went slower. That little chirpy bird kind of moment, right? So notice that the molto rit starts one measure before gently. And I noticed yours started an extra measure early. So I would love for that measure that's marked mezzo forte to stay in tempo and the accents be really long. Notice they're accents with tenuto marks. And that way, when you do your molto rit, your gently doesn't get too slow because that relationship got a little off kilter there. So the trick I do is I literally put my metronome on, and it can be whatever tempo. The piece is marked at 84 for that theme.
84 is pretty peppy.
It's peppy. You were just a little under, but not far, okay? So you were around 74. So let's say you're at 74. I'll get this on so everybody can hear. And I would just turn the metronome on and then allow that metronome to transition to the gently, which is also marked the same tempo, but just in 4. And then you grab it and you kind of find that balance in between, right? Right? So that's how I kind of play with the metronome, and I'm trying to be smart about the tempos I choose so that they're related to each other and it's not this totally left field. Where am I going now? And that can help you kind of establish that beat. Do you have a metronome handy where you could try that?
Short answer, no.
Okay, but that's something that you could try, right? Just set it at whatever tempo you're feeling comfortable at, and that's just going to transition into 4/4 at that same speed. And then you can even keep it on all the way through the rallentando and the fermata so that when the spirited comes back, it's still clicking for you, right? And that's just a really nice way to like memorize your tempos, which is helpful, right? Great. How are we doing on time? Because I know we're going to be short, and I want to make sure we get to everybody.
We have a couple more minutes left, maybe
Okay,
3
great.
minutes.
Then let's just jump to the very end. Here's another place where we play with time a little bit. So we have this little poco rit and then a poco excel to this nice flashy ending, which you did that ending really nicely. I would retard a little less, right? So just a little minute to kind of catch your breath. And then the poco accelerando, I kind of drag leading in, and then boom, when I get to the downbeat, that's when I'm at tempo. And you get a lot of fun there at the end.
Like I'm teasing people by holding that first 16th note just a hair long and then taking off.
Yeah. Do you want to give that a try?
You know what? Why not just, dance wildly in a public place for my clarinet friends?
Sure.
So this is just the pickup with the poco shell, yeah?
Can you start at 53?
53.
Yeah.
Nope. One more time.
But I liked your poco rit. That worked really nicely, right? And then the pickup notes at the poco accelerando, you can drag a little. Ya da 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 dee da 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 da. Yeah, that was great.
Complete with eyebrows, which I think are very important in music.
Excellent. That was great, Catherine. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Thank you for writing the piece, Kristen.
Sure.
Such a privilege.
All right, I'm going to bring up the second movement here, and I should just say for everyone, this piece hasn't been officially published to the general public, so what we're sharing is a sample of each movement, enough that you get a taste of it, but not the music for everything. Okay, so we welcome Eunice, who is playing the second movement for us. I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, I'm having pushing the wrong buttons here. Let me just get that back on screen.
And before you start that one, I may just ask you to just hear the first couple of measures of air sounds and then jump to that 35-second mark and maybe just hear a couple of measures of that and then jump to the 124 mark, just because it's repetitive, it's long, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to hear everything.
Great. Why don't you just let me know when you want me to fast forward and I'll do it. Here we go.
Okay. Okay, so you can go ahead and go up to the 35-second mark now. to jump to the 525 mark, and we'll just hear the ending now. All right, excellent work. And Eunice, I don't know if you're seeing the comments. Everybody's saying such really nice things about your playing, so that's really nice.
Thank you. Took a
You're
while
playing.
to get those airwaves.
Yeah, and we'll experiment with that for sure. I love how smooth your sound is, and I love the shapes you're doing. So most of what we'll talk about is just like some pacing things that could help, and we're gonna dig into those air sounds. I'm gonna have you try some other ideas, which I think when we're performing something like this, it's kind of nice to have a visual. So I was sort of thinking of the visual aspect of the performance, also the audible aspect of the performance. So this movement's called the sea between us. The air sounds are ocean waves crashing, and then we get this haunting melody in the distance, and then the main theme comes in, and it's just this like heartbreaking thing, like your friend is a sea across from you. They're so far from you. And then the third movement, then we get our reunion and everybody's happy again. So, but this is just hard when friends are really far. Like one of my closest friends is in England right now. It's just like we are so far apart from each other, and I think about this sea between us. So let's try the air sounds here. And when I did this, I started on the side like this, and then I blow strong in the middle, and then I pull it this side. And right when it's in the middle, I force extra air so that I can get even more air sound going. That way when the note changes, because there is a fingering change there, the peak of that is when the air is the loudest, and we might actually hear that change of the air in the tube on the clarinet. Right? You want to give that a try? You're still going to do the same idea. You're blowing great with the air, just a little extra push in the middle right when you change notes.
I tried that, but I usually play with a tooth guard, and that
Okay.
really wouldn't go properly.
I don't have it in my mouth, so I'm going like this.
Okay.
Like an F. It's not even in my mouth. There you go. And instead of trying to do this, which is kind of hard, I just turn my face.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
I'll
may
try
have to
that.
make like a video showing this, to help people learning it so that they really understand what I'm going after there. But just like it's not even in my mouth. You can get a nice big sound that way. Okay? So
I'll
you can
try that.
experiment with that and see what the loudest sound you can get. And it may be a different thing that you do physically to get your loudest air sound. So you can definitely experiment with that. I'm sure it'll be different for everybody. Underbite, overbite, like stuff like that might change it. And setup, who knows, right? Great. And so now we'll just talk about some pacing things. So I have very particular metronome markings on this. And
Yes.
some of the slow ones were kind of fast, and then some of the ones that should have been faster were kind of slow. So we want to really make sure we lock into metronome. And yes, the desolate, where the main theme comes in at 83, of course, that has rubato marked, right? We want some flexibility in the main theme. But one thing I learned from my teacher in Colorado, Dan Silver, was there's no rubato without stability first. So you have to have a really stable tempo first, practice it with the metronome, and then you can kind of sneak into phrases, push in the middle, sneak out of phrases. But we want that sort of overall tempo to guide us through that, and then you can add the flexibility later. So I'd encourage you to do some metronome work so that, you know, that first decilate at 64 is very different from with movement at 84, because they were almost the same speed, right? So we want to make sure we really have that difference. I think of it like a ship is really far away and then it gets a little bit closer and a little bit closer. So you can kind of think of something like that, or any kind of analogy that will help you with that. Okay, let's jump to just one little rhythm thing at 91. This is where we have the B theme or the B section, the second theme, however you want to think of it. You played your dotted quarter notes everywhere else beautifully, perfectly divided and rhythmically. But for some reason in this spot, you wanted to jump ahead. So make sure you really feel that dotted quarter notes full value. 1 and 2 and a 3, right? That's just one little thing to check out. Do you want to try that so you can play a little bit today?
Sure.
Okay. There you go. That's perfect. Very good. And then right after that, where we have the 16ths moving to triplets, you kind of were already doing this, but I think about the lower note as the main note. That's the note that's moving, because the E and F, they're just like this pedal group that's happening. So really what we want to hear is when you're doing. Ooh, I played the wrong rhythm. So that's something that I do often. I'll just remove the extra and play the note that's the important one. Practice that, make sure maybe they're getting a little bit of a tenuto, especially on the low G sharp, because that's where we're headed. Give that one a little extra time. You want to try that measure?
I did the same thing you did.
Yeah, beautiful, nice. And I do want to back up because I did want to talk about grace notes. So that grace note that you just played was fantastic. The other ones I felt they came a little early and they were a little long. So if you can wait a little longer and then play them later and shorter. So like at the with movement in measure 73, right? So a little quicker and a little bit later, right? You want to give that a try? Yeah, there you go. Yep, just a little later and a little quicker. And that comes up again, of course, when you're in the main theme. So we have that B grace note in measure 86. So if you lead into that, starting on that low E. Just a little ba-dum, right? And give that a try.
Oh dear.
There you go. Now, as you get more comfortable with that pacing, remember that's going to be where you're headed with your phrasing. So lean in a little bit more on it as far as the phrasing is concerned too, okay? Now let's jump down to 97, leading into the with freedom. And I probably should mark this a little more detailed. Like hearing you guys play today has helped me like, ooh, I might need to go in and be more clear with what I'm marking. Because I think more like a cadenza. So I think stretch, and then I think fast, and then I think stretch again, right? So maybe the first few notes I'll stretch, and then I'm going to kind of push through some of those 16th notes, and then pull back at the polka retard. Also, make sure your sound stays full. That's all forte there. So you got to that high A beautifully, and then it dropped way down. So make sure it stays forte, nice and loud through there. And it is tricky coming out of that, and there is a breath. You do want to take that breath, because I need it to be able to go from that long G sharp into an air sound. But take it quick, like a little sip of air. So if you're like getting into that. And then again, I pull away and go to the F sound, right? Okay. So poke over it, it means just a little. So we don't want it to come to a big stop, just a little bit of a slowdown there. Mm-hmm. And then two other quick things, because I know we got to go to the next one. At the odd tempo after that, we have the main melody again, but now it's like a variation with all these extra notes and scales and difficult technical figures, right? So that makes it harder, right, with all these extra notes. But we do want it to be the same tempo that we had the original theme, so it sounds like a variation of that theme, right? And the easier you can get all those moving notes, the more they'll sound really easy, like crashing waves. And I know it's easier said than done to get all these little noodles comfortable in your fingers, but the more comfortable those get, the more freedom you'll be able to have to make these gestures really sound like waves crashing.
I know for this recording, for some reason, I did the triplets really slowly. I don't know why. So I know that was wrong.
Oh, okay. And then the last thing would be the odd tempo at 112 when we go from sound to air. Hold the sound a little bit longer before you switch to air. So that goes for that, and then the very, very last measure too. Hold that A a little bit longer before you switch back to air again. Okay?
That's good.
Awesome. I think that's probably our time. Thank you, Eunice. You sounded wonderful.
Thank you, Christine. It's an honor.
Thank you, Eunice. And playing the third movement, we have Marilyn Fleming.
And before we play this movement, this is the one that was really heavily influenced by Irish music. And I literally Googled Irish music, right? And I was like, I got to get into gear. I've got to like start listening to a bunch of Irish music. And I came across these ladies. I think they're called Lilt. I forget the name of their group, but they're these two Irish ladies, and they sing these Irish lilting songs. And this is the song that they're getting ready to play that inspired this movement. It's really short. If we can listen to that real quick. Love that. It just made me like really inspired, and I wrote this quick thing with little accents that kind of punch.
A verbo is for all kinds of moments. From baby moons.
Gotta love YouTube. Sorry about that.
All right, now let's listen to Marilyn's recording.
Now we'll get Marilyn back. All right, let me get her re-queued after that rude interruption there. Here we go.
Nice job, Marilyn. And it's so good to see you again too. All right. Well, thank you so much for working on this one. I think the smoothness of the little fours, you've done a really good job with that, because that I thought might be the hardest thing. Was that really tough for you to get that wrapped around your head?
Not really. The tempo was the toughest thing for me. I didn't make it to where I wanted to get it, but that was where I struggled the most. The tempo and the chromatics, because of certain fingers that don't want to behave the way they are intended to behave.
Okay, okay. But you flew it, and you know it's flying pretty well. So I mean, a little bit faster, of course, would be nice, but it's got the right character to it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, the other thing I wish I'd heard your little video clip before I played it, because I was sort of playing swing as opposed to Irish
But it has sort
until
of
the day before.
yeah, it has like a swing feel to it, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. So I think about a constant airstream, like bagpipes, right? Bagpipes just have a constant airstream, and there's not much dynamic changes, right? We do have dynamic changes in this piece. So the dynamic changes are important, but that feeling of just floating on one constant stream of air, like there's a drone in the background, or you're just playing one long note the whole time. Because when we're playing 6/8, it's very tempting to want to bum, be la dun da dee da da, right? And you didn't do that, right? But it could also be a little bit more longer phrased, right?
I fought it. Believe me, I fought
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I'm going to play it like a typical 6/8, and I'm going to first say Marilyn did not do this, okay? But I think she was somewhere in between, but closer to the smooth side. So like if you see something in 6/8, you might be tempted to play this way. Right? Because that's what we normally have in 6/8. It's very bouncy. But I think about that long phrase just constantly blowing. Ooh, I gotta do that again. And then let those accents punch out. Similar to what I was talking about, Catherine, when you have the accent be a little less around and then let them punch through a little bit more, right? And then that dynamic contrast is so important at the beginning. We have forte, and then immediately we have mezzo piano. Right? But we're still floating on that same airstream, which is also hard, right? But I did that so that the accents could pop out. Because if it was all forte, how are we going to make accents pop out when we're supposed to also be forte? You'd have to really force, right? Mm-hmm. So you can work on those dynamic jumps from sudden forte to sudden mezzo piano. Notice there's no decrescendo. It's like a sudden shift. Do you want to try that, mostly thinking about the dynamics at the beginning? Ba-da-da-dum, be-da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-dum.
Okay, first, let's do a little sound check and make sure my sound is okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, now I heard the accent pop too. That was nice. Very good. Now let's jump to the third line. Pick up to measure 142, where we have mezzo forte, that little accent as a pickup.
Oh yes, that's hard to start right there, but we'll see what happens.
Well, that spot I want to show you, and some people might know this already, but instead of going A B A, you can go A B.
Ooh.
Very top side key.
Yes.
So pedagogically, that was this movement to make sure we.
Yeah.
There you go. That'll make that a lot easier, right? And then we want those punches too. Then there's that one on the D that comes out of nowhere too, right? Somebody else. I heard somebody else playing. Okay. Do you want to try that, Marilyn, at that spot?
Okay, let me. I have to work on this bit a
Yeah,
bit.
you can get into it if you want.
Yeah, that's a hard place to start
Okay.
because of that offbeat note to
Yeah.
pick up on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the idea. So now you're getting the accent in the right spot,
yeah,
and that side key is going to make it a lot easier.
absolutely.
And that's something I could also edit and mark in the music.
I would put that in the
fingering
music because that never occurred to me to do that.
Okay.
As soon as you said it, I said, "Well, I should have known that."
Yeah, so I have no problem. I'll put a little star there in the music, and I'll put the fingering down at the bottom so that
Yeah, and
people
the other thing that my reaction to this is I was wondering if those accents were basically shifting the pulse from the first half of the measure to the second half of the measure. The way you described it, you actually did mean to be punched, but I wondered if it was perhaps more of a, I was playing them more as an emphasized with the breath long note, but trying to take away from the first half of the measure and put the beat on the second half of the measure, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh no. So you're going to want to accent and then decay.
Yeah,
Ba,
that's
ba,
not the way I did it.
Yeah, yeah. So if there's an accent that's meant to be sustained in at least how I write, I'll write the accent with a tenuto. If it's a regular accent where we want to punch and then come away a little bit, then I just write a regular sideways accent mark. And there's a couple of spots like in the first movement where there was that tenuto accent that I was working on with Catherine, ba ba be da da da, because those were accented and sustained.
Yeah, there weren't any of those in my movement, I don't think.
I don't think so. And then nothing is clipped unless you see staccato. So resist that temptation to clip. And I know there's a kind of a tricky spot in 171, that little transition. It's tempting to want to clip off that A before you go to the E pickup and then the high F. But make sure you blow through and stay steady there.
Okay, where are you?
171. Right.
Okay, and that one is clipped, right? The A.
Just the last A. So
Is it like a jazz upbeat?
A little bit, yeah.
Because
But what
the
we wanna avoid
the
is-
G sharp has the accent, so it's,
Yeah, and that's a long accent, right?
well, I was just basically pointing you to the right place in the music.
Yeah. But the A before that, I think you lifted a little bit, so blow through it.
Yes,
Right, you
I
clipped it.
breathed in there, which was not a good. I shouldn't need a breath there.
Yeah, try that breath in that optional breath spot. I think you took yours later.
I am quite breath challenged. Yes, I did take it later.
Okay.
But then I took one right before the piano, and then I took another one a measure later, which I shouldn't need to do. But
Okay.
that's where you heard the lift on the A.
Now, I
That's
mean,
where
desperate
breathed.
times, if you're in the performance, sometimes we have to breathe in places we didn't plan to, right?
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, this is a long haul too, so I get that. Okay, how are we doing on time? Because I do have a couple of things I want to do, but I want to make sure we have enough time.
3.5 minutes.
Okay. Okay, I think we hit some of the big ones. So the last thing I would talk about is maybe just the ending. So here we have this chromatic scale for those who might remember from your ears. A chromatic scale that's slow and then it speeds up, and then we have this little beep-a, 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 and then that leads to the ending. So what I do and what you can do is in measure 2230, where there's the low G with a tenuto, I stretch just a little bit there on the notes leading up to it, ba-da-da-dum, and then it kind of sets off that ending a little bit more. I'll play for you so you see what I'm talking about. And I might put a poco writ there and then odd tempo after. I just don't want people to slow down too much.
Mine's just,
You want to be right back to tempo all the way to the end, no slowing down at the ending. Make sense?
Yeah, I was in the wrong place. Yes,
Okay.
I was looking further back in front of the chromatic, but yeah, I did take that pretty slow at the end.
Okay. So I'll do this little bit one more time, and I want you to try it. See how I stretch that just a little bit? Ba-da-da-dee, then ba-dum, ba-dum. Nice and light after. I'm gonna give
And
that
there you do have a tenuto. There is a tenuto over there.
I know, yeah. Do you want to try that at 228 and get into that? There you go. That was paced better. Nice. The G, 3 measures to the end. The upper G with the accent.
Ah, there's another tenuto.
Ah.
Yes.
And there's no pause after it, right? Ba-dum, ba-yum, ba-da-da-da. You want to try that?
Okay, wait. When you said there's no pause, you mean after the accented G, right?
You had a little pause before the G. You kind of did.
I probably put a pause between the G and the G flat. Okay, let's see.
No, I'm talking about after the A. So it was sort of like this.
I put the G on the beat. Is what you're saying? When it should have been before the beat.
I'll play how you did it.
Oh, okay.
You had a pause there, but no pause. Go right into it.
Now I missed the rest of it.
Yep, that's it. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Marilyn. You did an awesome job with that one too.
Nice seeing you again, Kristen. And
Yeah, you too.
enjoyed playing your stuff.
Thank you. And everybody else, this music, of course, is part of a consortium and a commission. It will be available for everybody else to purchase January 1st of 2025. I know that's a ways away. So when ICA hits in August, I will set up a pre-order in my website for that. And if you join my mailing list, I send one message a month, just one, I promise. And that just kind of keeps you up to date on what's coming and what's new.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kristen. And thank you for all the players. But Kristen, thank you for writing this for our community because this is going to be such a fabulous addition. And thank you for being here and doing this masterclass. And thanks to all the players.
Thank you.
Yeah. We can't wait to hear it in Dublin.